Transformation is a potent word, a powerful concept. But what does it mean in relation to a society? Can the spiritual DNA of a community really be altered? If so, what kind of features does this new blueprint produce? In this program, we'll attempt to answer these and other important questions. We'll visit several communities whose streets and institutions have lately been rattled by the power of the Holy Spirit. We'll examine both the causes and the effects of this most impressive phenomena. To take us on this journey, we join noted investigative researcher George Otis, Jr., a man who spent years reading signposts on the road to community transformation.
Community transformation is a concept that many Christians struggle with. But where does this tentativeness come from? My own observation is that it derives largely from the limitations of our own life experience. If you ask believers if they've experienced spiritual revival, most will say yes. Ask if they're convinced that large-scale church growth can happen, and they will invariably cite specific examples. But what almost no one has experienced, at least in the Western world, is a profound and pervasive transformation of their community. And as a result, we're inclined to think it's unattainable. But is this a valid assumption? I'd like to invite you to journey with me to 4 communities that have been dramatically altered by the power of the Holy Spirit. 4 communities that offer a shining example of what can happen when God comes to town.
Was well known as the drug capital of the world, and along with that all the violence and corruption, sin of every kind you can imagine. The violence was getting worse. The church was really feeling the pressure of what was going on.
Kiambu was a town which had very bad history. In fact, it had the worst history in our country. Murder in terms of rape, violence, it was well known. This town was not growing. The churches were not growing. Because of the bad reputation of the town, nobody wanted to come.
This town was in serious trouble.
Lots of Satanism, witchcraft. We had the Moonies in the valley, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, TM, Transcendental Meditation Facilities, and Church of Scientology. We discovered that we were methamphetamine manufacturing capital of the West Coast.
There was a spirit of competition that reigned and ruled within not just the churches, but in the pastors.
Almolonga was an extremely poor village.
This was a community in total poverty and alcohol addiction.
Violence, ignorance, witchcraft, the occult, idol worshipping.
In '95, we had our first all-night prayer meeting.
Diciendo, Cristo vive!
Did you feel the mountains tremble?
And they prayed against principalities and powers. They prayed for unity. They believed in God to see Him move in the churches.
After these major prayer events, united prayer events were going on, that's when we started seeing the results.
And 10 days later, the first drug war fell. And God was changing the city.
Fling wide you heavenly gates. Prepare the way of the risen Lord.
It has led to an absolute transformation of this city. Corruption has been reduced dramatically. The cocaine drug cartels have been shattered in this city. There are about 60,000 people, and they've come here to spend the entire night praying that God would continue the marvelous work He has been doing in this city for 36 consecutive months. This is something that pastors and intercessors in the United States, in Europe, all over the world need to witness. This is what God is doing in our day.
And we can see that God, you're moving a mighty river through the nation, and young and old will come to Jesus. Bring wide you heavenly gates.
We prayed, we fasted. The Lord showed us a spirit of witchcraft resting over the place. The spiritual power over the town had been broken.
Everything changed. There was explosive church growth. The crime rate plunged to almost zero today. Every single bar in Kiambu closed. All but one of those bars are churches today.
Do you feel the darkness tremble when all the saints join in?
And we began to pray, and we sensed that the Lord was telling us that we would be allowed to break the ruling spirit over the region.
I'm not just going to be held accountable for how I treated my church. I'm going to be held accountable by God for how did I pastor my city. And now the atmosphere in our city has completely turned.
So we've seen a dramatic reduction in the occult activity as well as an increase in attendance in church activity.
In the last 10 years, we've seen a mighty move of God. There's been a real turnaround.
Transformation is taking place. It is not the same community it was in the past.
%85 of the population of Almolonga are now born-again evangelical Christian. You've never seen so many churches in your life. All the streets are named after biblical places.
The whole city has been transformed. It is a beautiful spectacle to go and see the effect of the gospel, because you actually can see it. And that's what we want for our communities, for our cities, and for our nations.